Every year, millions of people spend real money to visit places that leave them standing on a sidewalk asking, "That's it?" Some of them are famous. Some of them are beloved. Some of them have been on bucket lists for decades. All of them will disappoint you in proportion to the expectations they've built. These are the 12 tourist traps in America you shouldn't even consider. Number 12, Times Square, New York City, New York. Let's start at the top. Times Square in Midtown Manhattan has been voted the world's worst tourist trap in multiple global surveys, and yet it draws somewhere around 50 million visitors per year. That number alone should tell you something about the human capacity for ignoring data. Here's what you actually get: a stretch of neon billboards the size of office buildings, a sidewalk so packed you can't walk faster than a slow shuffle, chain restaurants charging Manhattan prices for food you can get anywhere in America, aggressive costumed characters demanding tips for photos you didn't ask to take, and souvenir shops selling the same "I love Now" merchandise you can find at any airport in the country. Times Square made sense as a destination when it was the only place you could see this concentration of lights, billboards, and spectacle. That was decades ago. Now you have a phone, you have the internet, and you've seen every photograph ever taken of Times Square before you even arrive. Nothing about being physically present in it adds to the experience. You will stand in the middle of it, take a photo, and then immediately want to leave. Everyone around you also immediately wants to leave. A notable survey by the online learning platform Preply found that over 1,000 reviewers called Times Square overrated and stressful. Stressful. That's the word people use to describe their vacation. The economics of Times Square are worth understanding. The restaurants in that area operate with captive audience pricing. You're paying for the location, not the food. The M&M's store has 2 floors. There is a store dedicated entirely to Hershey's chocolate. These are not destinations. They are retail experiences designed to process tourist foot traffic as efficiently as possible. If you're in New York City, one of the great cities on earth, go literally anywhere else. Walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, sit in the West Village, and eat somewhere wonderful. Go to the Whitney, walk the High Line. Times Square is a monument to what happens when mass tourism perfects the art of maximum extraction for minimum experience. Number 11, Fisherman's Wharf, San Francisco, California. Fisherman's Wharf tied with Wall Drug in South Dakota for the top spot on the 2025 Worldwide Tourist Trap Rankings, each earning the label Tourist Trap 1,000 times in online reviews. That's not a coincidence. Both made the list by doing exactly what tourist traps do: selling a version of a place that no longer exists, if it ever really did. Fisherman's Wharf once was a legitimate commercial fishing hub. The boats that used to unload Dungeness crab and fresh fish at the docks largely departed decades ago, as industrial fishing operations moved elsewhere and real estate became too valuable for working boats. What replaced them was the tourism infrastructure that serves those 12 million annual visitors: the restaurants, the shops, the performers, the attractions designed entirely around the idea that people expect to see a working waterfront, even when the working part is gone. More than 12 million visitors a year funnel through this northern waterfront district of San Francisco, which once was a genuine working fishing port. The key word there is once. What remains is Pier 39, Ghirardelli Square, the Cannery, and a remarkable density of souvenir shops, mediocre seafood restaurants, and overpriced clam chowder served in a bread bowl that somehow costs $17. The sea lions that sun themselves on the docks near Pier 39 are genuinely charming. They showed up on their own in 1990 after the Loma Prieta earthquake and have stayed ever since, which is one of the better things to have come out of a natural disaster. The views toward Alcatraz and the Golden Gate Bridge are nice. Beyond that, you are paying San Francisco prices, which are among the highest in the country, to eat average food and buy a snow globe with a cable car in it. One reviewer summarized it as a mini Vegas, referencing the hollow commercial energy of the place. San Franciscans avoid it with the same energy that New Yorkers avoid Times Square. When the people who live in a city refuse to go somewhere, take the hint. San Francisco is full of extraordinary neighborhoods: the Mission, Haight-Ashbury, the Richmond, North Beach, where you can eat better, spend less, and see an actual city instead of a tourism industrial complex. The ferry building marketplace, right on the waterfront and much closer to the actual city's character, offers genuinely excellent food and a real sense of San Francisco daily life. Fisherman's Wharf is the version of San Francisco that exists for people who don't know San Francisco. You can do better. Number 10. The Hollywood Walk of Fame, Los Angeles, California. The Hollywood Walk of Fame has more than 2,700 stars embedded in the sidewalks of Hollywood Boulevard. Over 10 million people visit each year. A significant percentage of them arrive expecting glamour and magic, and a significant percentage of them leave confused and vaguely sad. The Walk of Fame dates back to the early 1960s and was a genuine piece of Hollywood culture when it was created. The surrounding neighborhood has not aged as gracefully. Multiple TripAdvisor reviewers have described the area as run down, dirty, full of shady figures, and overrun with costumed performers, people dressed as Spider-Man, Captain America, or various Disney characters, who aggressively pursue tourists for tips after photos. One reviewer called it a case of commercial exploitation with the magic of cinema nowhere to be found. That's a polished way of describing what most visitors experience on arrival. The boulevard around the Walk of Fame is lined with, as one reviewer charitably put it, row after row of car dealerships and abandoned buildings. The contrast between the fantasy being sold and the reality on the ground is stark enough to be its own kind of attraction. You came to see where the stars are. The stars are on the floor. That's the whole thing. The Walk of Fame also has a cost to it that visitors often don't realize is coming. Street performers. The costumed characters along Hollywood Boulevard operate a hustling economy in which posing with them for a photo, even if you didn't initiate it, results in immediate and sometimes aggressive requests for money. Multiple travel advisories specifically warn visitors to be wary of this. Surprisingly gross is how one TripAdvisor reviewer summarized the overall experience, which is not the sentence the Los Angeles Tourism Board would choose for its brochures. If you want to actually experience what makes Los Angeles remarkable, take the drive up to Griffith Observatory. The view of the city from there is genuinely one of the finest urban panoramas in the country. Admission is free, and James Dean filmed the knife fight scene for Rebel Without a Cause on those grounds. That's more Hollywood history in one free afternoon than you'll get from staring at Keanu Reeves' name on a sidewalk. Number 9. Wall Drug, Wall, South Dakota. Wall Drug began in 1931 as a humble pharmacy in the tiny town of Wall, South Dakota, population around 800 people. The owners hit upon a brilliant marketing strategy, put up signs on every available surface within a few hundred miles, promising free ice water to road-weary travelers. The billboards multiplied until they were everywhere. How far to Wall Drug became the refrain of every road trip that passed through the Great Plains. Today, Wall Drug has grown into a 76,000 square foot complex of shops, restaurants, and Western-themed displays. There is an 80-foot concrete dinosaur outside. There is a giant jackalope. There are cowboy sculptures and an animatronic T-Rex, and more souvenirs than any one building should reasonably contain. The free ice water is still being offered. The 5-cent coffee is a genuine institution. These things are real. The billboard campaign is legendary, and it works. People drive hours out of their way specifically because the signs promise something wonderful. The Wall Drug billboard empire once extended to billboards in Europe, Antarctica, and on biplanes flying over the English Channel. The marketing is genuinely remarkable. Then they arrive and find a very large gift shop that also has a drugstore in it. Wall Drug tied for the top spot on the 2025 Worldwide Tourist Trap Rankings, 1,000 mentions as a tourist trap in a single year. One person who wrote about visiting described arriving with huge anticipation built up by miles of billboard hype and leaving having to Google what was actually there afterward, because it made so little impression. When you can't remember what an attraction looked like the day after you visited it, that's a verdict in itself. The honest version of Wall Drug is that it's a successful piece of roadside Americana, a marketing masterpiece more than an attraction. If you're driving across South Dakota, your time is probably better spent in Badlands National Park, which is 25 miles away and is one of the most legitimately extraordinary landscapes in the United States. Number 8. The Space Needle, Seattle, Washington. The Space Needle was built for the 1962 World's Fair in Seattle, which gives it genuine historical significance and a legitimately iconic silhouette against the Pacific Northwest skyline. The original design, created by architect John Graham Jr. and Edward Carlson, was itself inspired by Stuttgart's TV tower. The Space Needle was built in just 13 months before the World's Fair opened in April 1962, and it cost $4.5 million. As a piece of mid-century modern architecture representing the optimism of the early space age, it is a genuinely important object. What it doesn't have is adequate value for its current admission price. According to a FloridaRentals.com analysis of TripAdvisor reviews, the Space Needle ranks as the biggest tourist trap in the United States by percentage of negative reviews. More than 4% of over 20,000 reviews specifically used language, suggesting it was overpriced, overrated, or not worth it. That makes it the most consistently disappointing paid attraction in America, at least by that measure. More than 800 reviews called it overpriced, overrated, or flat-out disappointing. That is a significant body of publicly documented regret. The observation deck sits at 605 feet. The view of Seattle and Puget Sound is pleasant. On clear days, Mount Rainier is visible in the distance, and the Olympic Mountains frame the horizon. But pleasant and worth standing in line for an hour to pay substantial money are not the same thing. Seattle is surrounded by free or cheap viewpoints that offer comparable or superior panoramas. The admission price also doesn't include parking, which adds another layer of cost in a city where parking is not known for being cheap. Cary Park, a small neighborhood overlook on Queen Anne Hill, gives you the iconic view of the Seattle skyline with the Space Needle in it. The view everyone actually wants. It's free. It takes 10 minutes to drive there. If you want to go inside the Space Needle, consider at least booking the dining option, which includes admission and lets you see the view at your own pace while eating. As one travel writer summarized, the whole experience feels engineered to extract maximum dollars for minimal payoff. Number 7. Mount Rushmore, South Dakota. Mount Rushmore is a genuine engineering and artistic achievement. 4 United States presidents, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln, are carved into a granite mountain in the Black Hills of South Dakota, each face approximately 60 feet tall. Sculptor Gutzon Borglum and his son, Lincoln Borglum, oversaw the carving from 1927 to 1941. It is a remarkable feat of mid-20th century ambition, and roughly 400 workers participated in the project over 14 years. It is also, in person, somewhat smaller than expected. This is the nearly universal complaint from visitors who make the drive to South Dakota's Black Hills. You've seen photographs of Mount Rushmore your entire life. You know exactly what it looks like. You arrive. It looks like the photographs. You can see everything worth seeing in approximately 15 minutes. There is a viewing platform with a walkway. There are some informational exhibits. There is a gift shop. Then you look around and realize there is not much else to do in the immediate vicinity of a mountain with some presidents carved into it. More than 2 million people make this realization every year. There is also the significant historical issue of the site's location. The Black Hills were sacred to the Lakota Sioux and had been guaranteed to them by the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868. The U.S. government violated that treaty when gold was discovered in the Black Hills in 1874. The Supreme Court ruled in 1980 that the land had been taken illegally and awarded $102 million in compensation. The Sioux Nation refused the money and continues to refuse it, maintaining their claim to the land itself. That legal and moral dispute is ongoing and unsettled. Carving 4 U.S. presidents into those same hills carries a weight that the experience brochures don't typically lead with. It is also worth noting that Mount Rushmore was the personal project of sculptor Gutzon Borglum, who had previously worked on Stone Mountain in Georgia, a Confederate monument. The Black Hills Project was partly about promoting tourism in South Dakota, and partly about Borglum's ambitions. The selection of the 4 presidents was influenced by Borglum's own aesthetic and political views. The whole edifice is a more complicated artifact than the postcard version suggests. The surrounding Black Hills region, Custer State Park, the Needles Highway, Badlands National Park, is genuinely extraordinary and more than worth the trip to South Dakota. Mount Rushmore is worth a glance on the way through. A dedicated pilgrimage? Maybe reconsider. Number 6. Graceland, Memphis, Tennessee. Elvis Presley's former home in Memphis, Tennessee is the most expensive tourist trap on this list. According to the 2025 Worldwide Tourist Trap Analysis, Graceland topped the global list for admission price, charging approximately $84 for the standard ticket, with over 200 reviewers specifically branding it a tourist trap. By comparison, most major American museums charge far less for experiences that cover considerably more ground. Graceland draws significant numbers of devoted Elvis fans for whom the pilgrimage to his home is genuinely meaningful. If you are a committed Elvis fan, this is probably a worthwhile visit regardless of cost. The house is preserved as Elvis left it, with the famous jungle room in all its shag-carpeted glory, and his grave on the property gives the visit an emotional weight that many fans find moving. For everyone else, the question is whether you are paying $80+ to see a mid-sized 1970s decorated house because you genuinely love Elvis Presley, or because you've been told it's something you should see. The latter is the tourist trap impulse at its purest, visiting somewhere because of its reputation, rather than because the experience it offers matches what you actually want. The Graceland admission structure is also worth understanding. The basic ticket gets you inside the house and onto the grounds. Multiple higher-tier options add the private plane exhibits, additional collections, and other supplemental experiences, each at additional cost. Families quickly find themselves hundreds of dollars into a visit, where the core experience, the house itself, can be completed in under 2 hours. Memphis itself has extraordinary things to offer. The Civil Rights Museum, built around the Lorraine Motel, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4, 1968, is one of the most powerful American museums in existence. Beale Street has genuine musical heritage, even if parts of it have gone commercial. The Memphis Brooks Museum of Art is free on Sundays. Graceland is a legitimate destination for the right person. For everyone else, Memphis has better ways to spend your time and your $80. Number 5. Plymouth Rock, Plymouth, Massachusetts. Plymouth Rock is the supposed landing site of the Mayflower Pilgrims in 1620. That historical significance has been drawing visitors to Plymouth, Massachusetts for generations. The story is one of America's founding myths, the Pilgrims stepping ashore onto a specific rock and beginning the settlement that would eventually contribute to the founding of a nation. It is a compelling story. The rock is considerably less compelling than the story. The rock itself is a mid-sized boulder. It weighs an estimated 7 tons in its current state. It was much larger originally and has been chipped away by souvenir hunters and moved several times over the centuries. It sits in a sandy pit behind a fence, under a neoclassical portico added in the 1920s to lend it some grandeur it otherwise lacks. The number 1620 is carved into it. That is the entirety of the experience. There is no contemporary documentation of the rock's significance from the original 1620 settlement. The association between Plymouth Rock and the Pilgrims' Landing was first recorded in 1741, more than 100 years after the event, when 94-year-old Elder Thomas Faunce reportedly identified it as the landing spot his father had pointed out to him as a child. The rock has also been moved, cracked in half, and reassembled over the centuries. The portico surrounding it was added in the 1920s in an attempt to give the site more gravitas. It is now a very small rock in an ornate stone enclosure, viewed through iron railings from a short distance. As one Reddit user put it, Plymouth Rock is literally just a mid-sized rock with a year carved into it. Multiple travel writers have noted that feeling completely let down by Plymouth Rock is practically a rite of passage for New England elementary school students. The field trip is a ritual. The disappointment is the actual lesson. If elementary school kids are openly let down by it, the adults who drove 3 hours to see it are not going to fare better. Plymouth itself has genuinely interesting history. The Mayflower II replica, Plymouth Patuxent, the Living History Museum, formerly Plymouth Plantation, and the surrounding coastline make for a worthwhile day trip. The rock, however, will not be the highlight. It will likely be the moment you turn to whoever you came with and say, I can't believe we drove here for this. Number 4. The Four Corners Monument, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona. The Four Corners Monument marks the only place in the United States where 4 states meet at a single point: Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. The appeal is simple. You can stand in 4 states simultaneously, take a photo with a limb in each state, and claim a geographical achievement most Americans haven't bothered to attempt. The monument is a flat metal disc, embedded in the ground, surrounded by a low circular platform. The surrounding landscape is remote high desert on the Navajo Nation. There are typically a few vendor stalls selling Navajo crafts and food. The nearest city of any size is hours away in multiple directions. There is essentially nothing else to do there except take the famous 4 states photo and leave. Most visitors spend between 10 and 15 minutes at the site. The monument charges an entry fee that many visitors describe as feeling steep, for what amounts to looking at a small metal marker in the dirt. The fee goes to the Navajo Nation, which operates the site, a fact that gives it more legitimacy than the experience alone might suggest. Multiple travel writers and Reddit threads have noted that the long, isolated drive for a quick photo opportunity tests the patience of even enthusiastic travelers. The Four Corners is genuinely unique as a geographical curiosity. The question is whether unique and worth the considerable effort to reach are the same thing. For most visitors, the answer is no. The surrounding region, Monument Valley, Canyon de Chelly, Mesa Verde National Park, contains some of the most spectacular landscapes in North America. The detour to the monument itself rarely adds proportional value to what is otherwise a genuinely extraordinary road trip through the American Southwest. Number 3. The Alamo, San Antonio, Texas. Before you light up the comments, the Alamo is historically significant. The 1836 Battle of the Alamo, where a small Texas revolutionary force held out against the Mexican army under General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna for 13 days before being overwhelmed, is one of the most important events in Texas history and a meaningful piece of the American story. The phrase "Remember the Alamo" became a rallying cry. It still carries weight. None of that is the problem. The problem is not the Alamo's history. The problem is the delivery. Multiple travel platforms and Reddit threads have documented the same complaint. The Alamo is much smaller than most visitors expect. The famous facade you've seen in photographs is the chapel, and it is compact. The surrounding grounds contain some interpretive material, but the historic Mission Complex is embedded in the middle of downtown San Antonio, surrounded by commercial shops and tourist infrastructure that can make the experience feel less like a solemn historical site and more like an attraction squeezed into a retail district. The Alamo is a huge disappointment, reads a common refrain across Reddit travel threads. Visitors cite minimal historical context, crowds that limit any sense of solemnity, and the disconnect between expecting a major battlefield monument and encountering a modest Spanish mission structure surrounded by Ripley's Believe It or Not and souvenir shops. The management of the Alamo has been a subject of ongoing debate in San Antonio. The state of Texas transferred custodianship of the Alamo to the Texas General Land Office in 1905, and the GLO has been working on a long-term restoration and visitor experience plan. The goal is to better present the site's full history, including its role as a Spanish colonial mission centuries before the 1836 battle. But the work has been slow and contentious. In the meantime, visitors arrive with Battle of the Alamo expectations and find a building whose size and setting don't match the scale of the story attached to it. The actual Alamo experience is best approached with calibrated expectations. San Antonio's Riverwalk, Mission San Jose, and the broader San Antonio Missions National Historical Park, which includes 4 other Spanish colonial missions, offer considerably more historical substance and far fewer crowds. Number 2. The Corn Palace, Mitchell, South Dakota. The Corn Palace in Mitchell, South Dakota has been a fixture of American road trips since it first opened in 1892. The exterior of the building is decorated each year using corn, grain, and seeds arranged into murals, a different theme each season. The whole exterior is replaced annually using approximately 275,000 ears of corn and 60,000 pounds of other grains. It is, without question, one of the more singular things you will see alongside a highway anywhere in the country. The sheer fact of its existence makes it an argument for America's capacity for unironic enthusiasm. The interior is essentially an arena used for local events. The Mitchell High School Colonels play their basketball games here, with a few displays about the Corn Palace's history and the annual mural design process. Entry is free. The exterior is genuinely worth 5 minutes of anyone's time as an undeniable piece of American folk vernacular architecture. The tourist trap component is the gap between how hard it's marketed and how quickly the experience exhausts itself. Billboards promote it aggressively across multiple states, building expectations that the reality of a corn-decorated arena cannot satisfy. Visitors who have driven significantly out of their way to see what the advertising implied was a major attraction often describe the subsequent disappointment vividly. As a free roadside stop on an existing route, the Corn Palace is a legitimate slice of American weirdness. As a destination in itself, and particularly as one that tourism marketing tries to make it, it's a monument to the distance between a billboard's promise and a parking lot's delivery. South Dakota has genuinely world-class natural attractions within a few hours' drive. The Corn Palace is best experienced as a 5-minute detour, not a destination. Number 1. The southernmost point, Key West, Florida. The southernmost point in the continental United States is marked by a large concrete buoy at the corner of South and Whitehead Streets in Key West. The marker is painted red, black, and yellow. It notes the distance to Cuba, 90 miles, and identifies the spot as the southernmost point in the continental U.S. It also notes, with a certain audacity, that it is 90 miles to Cuba, which is technically accurate but also a fun fact that does not require the physical presence of a concrete buoy to appreciate. The buoy is a replica, not the original. The original marker was replaced in 1983 with the current concrete structure. The actual southernmost point of Key West is technically on private property, so the marker stands at the nearby publicly accessible corner as an approximation. The wait to take a photo in front of it can run 30 to 45 minutes during peak season. The surrounding area on Whitehead Street offers a clear view of an ordinary neighborhood. Key West is a genuinely charming place. The historic Duval Street, the Hemingway House, the Dry Tortugas National Park, accessible by ferry, the excellent seafood, the sunsets at Mallory Square. The southernmost point is a concrete buoy in a residential neighborhood with a line of people waiting to photograph it. If you happen to be walking past it, take the photo. If you are planning your Key West day around it, plan around something else instead. Almost everything else Key West has to offer is more interesting than a painted concrete marker and the 30 minutes you'll spend in line to stand next to it. If this saved you from a disappointing vacation or made you feel slightly better about a trip that didn't live up to the hype, hit the like button and subscribe. We post new videos every week on the places worth going, the places worth skipping, and everything in between.